Falling in love is part of human nature. We all have that special someone that we want to be with, and this love becomes even more stronger when you've been having these feelings for such a long time. But what happens if that special someone that you have these strong feelings for cannot be with you, not because they don't have the same feelings back or they don't feel like it's the right time to have a relationship, but what if the reason why you can't be with this person is because they have been taken by somebody else, and that somebody else isn't a complete stranger or somebody you don't know. That somebody is your own best friend. And it's here that I introduce to you the manga series that I have been reading for quite a while that's titled Someone's Girlfriend, a story that follows our MC named Izuki Riku, a boy who's in his 3rd year of high school and is also a boy who has had a huge crush on a girl who goes by the name of Minase Shizuku. And while he has had these feelings for quite a while, there's just one problem. Shizuku is already in a relationship with his best friend who goes by the name of Sarano Takuto, a boy that he's been friends with ever since they were kids. So because Shizuku is in a relationship with his best friend, Riku at first tried his very best to no longer have these feelings for Shizuku. But very quickly we start to see that while Shizuku is already in a relationship with somebody else, it seems that she doesn't really mind Riku having these feelings for her. Not only does she tease him about it, but certain actions that she does not only make his feelings for her even stronger, but also that Shizuku tries to push the idea to Riku that if he's fine with it, she and him can have something in secret that only the two of them would know about it. These turn of events conflict Riku because on one hand, while he does want to have something with Shizuku, on the other hand, he can't do this to his best friend. Not only would this mean betraying his trust, but also for him it's just something that he can't do because that's not the kind of person that he is. And while Riku is struggling as to what to do in this situation, the same can't be said with Shizuku because at any time, whenever there's an opportunity, Shizuku is very quick to make advances towards Riku, and this escalates to the point that very quickly Shizuku ends up kissing Riku, something that shocked Riku because he was not expecting her to do that, but also it shocked me because after reading this moment, it only made me realize that from here on out, things are about to get even more crazier. However, in saying this, it's not like this manga is specifically all about Riku and Shizuku and what they're doing behind Takuto's back. As to the shock of no one, as the story progresses, we get introduced to brand new characters. The first character that we are introduced to is a girl whose name is Inami Umimi, who actually has history with both Riku and Takuto, as all three of them went to the same school together, this being junior high. However, when it comes to the relationship between Takuto and Umimi, it's much more bigger and much more deeper, and that's because once they encounter each other once again, Umimi runs away, and when Riku chases her to ask her what's wrong, it's here that Umimi reveals to Riku that she and Takuto used to be boyfriend and girlfriend back in junior high. Even though she admits that she is not surprised that he moved on from her, when she saw him with somebody else, it was still very heartbreaking to see for her, as one of the reasons why she even went to Riku's school is because she hoped that she could have a relationship with Takuto once again, now that she's become a much more different person than what she was in junior high. And while all this can just simply be looked at as an awkward reunion between Umimi, Riku, and Takuto, Umimi's appearance actually did something else, and that something else is that it caused Shizuku to start being a bit jealous. When she started seeing Riku and Umimi together, she felt that something between Riku and Umimi may happen. So when she and Riku are alone together once again, while normally she will make advances towards him in places where nobody would be able to see them, here she doesn't really care as she proceeds to make out with Riku right there at school. But because both of them were making out for such a long time, it was enough time for somebody to take a photo, which no surprise shocked Riku, and it only made things more complicated when we found out who took the photo, and it was none other than Umimi, who, to the surprise of nobody, she would confront Riku about it to ask him what is going on between him and Shizuku. And while Riku does hesitate for a bit, he will eventually tell the story, which after hearing, Umimi realizes just how complicated things are. But it's also after hearing the story that Umimi asks Riku a couple of questions. Does he really not have any feelings towards Shizuku, and if he does, why is he trying so hard to bury them? And even though Riku doesn't give her a clear answer, Umimi decides to use this whole situation as an opportunity by telling Riku that if he wants, she and him can work together to get with the person that they actually want to be with. She could help him get Shizuku while he could help her get with Takuto. As for her, this relationship is falling apart, so it's only a matter of time before Shizuku and Takuto are no longer a thing. And while at first Riku was not on board with this plan and did not want to go further with this, Umimi reminds him that she still has the photo of him and Shizuku kissing, so he has to go along with it whether he likes it or not. But this plan doesn't go as smoothly as they planned, since one day Shizuku and Riku end up getting stuck in the storage room, and while they are alone together, Riku tries his very best to make sure that something doesn't happen between them. But it's also here that's revealed as to why he's been trying so hard to bury the feelings that he has with Shizuku, and that's because he doesn't want the relationship between him, Shizuku, and Takuto to change. He's known these people for a very long time, and the last thing that he wanted was for their dynamic to fall apart. But when Takuto announced to him that he and Shizuku were boyfriend and girlfriend, that's where he realized that that change that he didn't want to happen was already happening. So in a last ditch effort, he tried to hide the feelings that he had for Shizuku in order for things to remain the same, not realizing that by doing so, his feelings only got stronger and stronger as time went by. But Riku wouldn't be the only one for reality to hit on him, it would be also Umimi as well, as when both her and Takuto are trying to find out where Shizuku and Riku went, realizing that they're both alone, Umimi asks Takuto a simple question: why did he decide to go out with her? In which Takuto responds by just simply saying that the reason why he went out with her to begin with was because he wanted to see if he could fall for somebody, something that he says she can relate, as this probably was also the same reason why she accepted being in a relationship with him, which would drastically shift Umimi's views and what she really feels about Takuto, and wondering if maybe what she was feeling towards Takuto was not the same as how she felt towards Riku. But this wouldn't be the only thing that the manga would focus on, as we actually start to focus more about the reason as to why Shizuku is doing all of this. Why is she trying so hard to get with Riku despite being in a relationship? This is something that even Umimi herself was questioning when she was hearing the story from Riku. Was this all just simply a way for Shizuku to entertain herself, or was there something much more deeper that even Riku himself has no idea? And the manga points this out a lot, like when once again both Shizuku and Riku are together, Shizuku goes out of her way to just state to Riku that every time she and him spend time together, it's creating a lot of memories that she will never forget, something that for Riku just came out of nowhere, as he has no idea why all of a sudden she said this. And this will only get more complicated when Shizuku tries to get Riku to be the one to be her first time, which while it did caught Riku off guard, he still didn't go through these actions because once again he doesn't want to do anything that would hurt his friend. But even after this rejection, it's here that Shizuku acknowledges just how much of a good guy Riku is, but wonders if this would have been the case if he had knew the truth, again implying there's something more going on in Shizuku's life, and there's a reason why she all of a sudden decided to do all this with Riku behind Takuto's back. But while the relationship between Riku and Shizuku is on a standstill, the dynamic between him and Umimi is advancing. This becomes more apparent when Umimi has a heat stroke, causing Riku to try to take care of her, but when he tries to help her by contacting her mother, Umimi is very quick to stop him from doing that, saying that he should only take her to the place that she's living right now and not tell her mother anything. And while this does make Riku wonder what is going on with Umimi's personal life, he doesn't try to dig any more deeper. But this wouldn't last too long, as he would then come to find out that the place that he took Umimi to get better was her grandmother's house, and this is where Umimi reveals to Riku that her problems with her family were so bad that she decided to move in with her grandmother in order to get away from all of it. And it wouldn't be too long for Riku to realize just how bad Umimi's family life is, as when Riku was keeping Umimi company by staying at her place, he will wake up to hear screaming and shouting from Umimi, and once he takes a look at what's going on, he will see Umimi fighting with her stepfather. At first, Riku doesn't know if he should step in, as he doesn't want to create more conflict between Umimi and her family, anything, but once he sees just how scared, especially when her stepfather is touching her, Riku decides to intervene, and this results in him getting punched in the face. And while the stepfather showed no indication of backing down, Riku already had a plan in advance, as not only did Riku FaceTime his mother for her to see what was going on, but also managed to get a recording of the stepfather hitting Riku, which will lead to the stepfather backing off for now. And it's after this whole ordeal that Umimi will ultimately open up and be more specific with her situation with her family to Riku. She explains how she didn't suspect anything about her stepfather. However, it became more clear and clearer as time went on that her stepfather started to become much more touchy with her, and this put Umimi in a very difficult position, as she wanted to tell her mother about what he's been doing, but because her mother seemed to be so happy in the relationship, she decided not to say anything. But things only got worse and worse, leading to Umimi wanting to get away from him, which would be something that she would do. And after hearing this, Riku feels very bad for Umimi. After everything she's been through, Riku feels like he wants to be there for her and help her in any way he can. But this will lead to an unexpected turn, as it will be here that after Umimi reveals everything, that Umimi will tell Riku if they can go out. And while it seemed at first that this was going to be a real relationship, it will be later revealed that this was not the case, as Riku and Umimi agreed to have a fake relationship, as Riku interprets this entire thing as just simply Umimi wanting somebody to be by her side, since he's still in the belief that Umimi is still trying to get with Takuto. But this turn of events is only just making things more complicated, as not only is the mystery of Shizuka's actions starting to become much more apparent, but also Riku's views on these sudden events that's been happening in his life. Because after a conversation with Takuto, while he does state that he doesn't want to ruin this friendship that he has with Takuto after so many years, at the same time he doesn't want things to end just like this, not realizing that things are just going to become much more unpredictable than he expected, as he would then meet another girl who is Umimi's friend named Yako Mitsuya, and she starts to make it very obvious that she has developed feelings for Riku. And while Umimi at first tries to not let it bother her and even be supportive of her friend, it doesn't last long, as just like when Riku was trying to bury his feelings for Shizuku, she too was also burying her feelings towards Riku, as she didn't think it was possible for her to fall for a guy, especially after what happened between her and her stepfather. This led to her having a fear of men, but she started noticing that when it came to Riku, he was the only guy that she felt safe. He was the only guy that she wasn't scared of talking to and wasn't scared whenever they were both alone. This will lead to not only Umimi being honest with Riku about her feelings, but Umimi will also be honest with Yako, telling her that while they are both friends, it doesn't mean that she's going to let Yako get Riku, because it will be her that's going to win the battle, setting up the next arc of the story, this being the beach arc, in which not only do we see Umimi and Yako try to win Riku over, but it's also here that the story starts to become a bit dark. You see, when the group made plans to go to the beach, Riku and the group had to work, and it's here that we will meet the manager of the place that they will have to work, this being Masaya Oshima. And very quickly Riku started to notice that there may be something going on with this guy, as not only did he see him be very close to Shizuku, which for a while you could just interpret this as just Riku being jealous, but as this arc continued, we started to really see the bad vibes this guy was giving, as not only did it seem that he was very focused on Shizuku, but when Shizuku and Masaya were alone together, when Masaya was making Shizuku a coffee, he spiked it with something. And had it not been for Riku and Takuto being at the right place at the right time, who knows what would have happened if Shizuku drank that coffee. But this wouldn't be the last time that both Shizuku and this manager would be alone. And while at first it seemed that Shizuku had no idea what was going on, that was far from it, because Shizuku was actually fully aware of what this guy was doing. And as it turns out, it seemed that the only reason why she was playing this guy's games was to protect Umimi, since it seems that the initial target for this guy was Umimi. So essentially, Shizuku decided to take Umimi's place in order to protect her. And just when it seems that something is about to happen between these two, before anything happens, Shizuku reveals the secret that she's been hiding from the others. And this secret, whatever it was, caused this manager to back down and no longer be interested in Shizuku. But whatever Shizuku is hiding from the others does indicate that she's on a time limit, which is why the next time we see Shizuku and Riku together, this time she is not holding back. She's trying to have something with Riku despite the fact that they are literally in the same room as Takuto. But despite her literal boyfriend being in the same room, she pays no attention to it and just keeps going forward with what she wants to do with Riku. And while Riku does eventually stop this from going any further, this wouldn't be the last time, as Riku would then be convinced by Shizuku to take a detour after their trip has ended in order to create more memories with one another. However, when doing so, a rainstorm happens, causing him to have to find a place to stay for the night. But it's here once again when they are alone together, Shizuku tries to do things with Riku. And while at first Riku tries stopping her, temptations kicked in, and this led to Riku getting to do what he's always been wanting to do with Shizuku. And this lasted for quite a while. And just when it seemed that Riku wasn't going to turn back, he changes his mind and stops what he's doing. And while this seemed to be the last time Shizuku would make advances towards Riku, this would also be the last time that Riku would have any contact with Shizuku, because after this she would then just disappear. And it's here in the story that we would then get a culture festival arc in which, while Riku is still thinking about Shizuku and what happened to her, he still tries to enjoy the culture festival. But it's here once again that the series gets dark, as not only does Shizuku does appear, only for him to not get a clear answer by her when he encounters her once again before disappearing, but it's also here that he will then get the news that Umimi's grandmother passes away. And once he sees Umimi, he sees just how broken she has become after her grandmother's passing, as she feels all alone and that now she has nobody she can rely on. And as if things weren't disturbing enough, once Umimi's mother tries to get her back to live at their place, when Umimi doesn't want to go anywhere with them, Umimi's mother reveals to her that all along she knew what was happening between Umimi and her stepfather. All this time she knew what was happening, but she decided to stay silent for the sake of her happiness. This will only lead to Umimi being more broken, and just when she thought that her life was over, someone came to the rescue, and it was none other than Riku, who helped her get away from this entire situation. They decided to spend the night at an internet cafe, and while at first everything seemed fine, Riku started to realize that Umimi was not being her usual self, something that becomes even more clear when Riku wakes up to seeing Umimi trying to make advances towards him. But it's very obvious that the only reason why Umimi is doing all of this is because in her broken mind, she believes that this is what she has to do in order for Riku to not abandon her, as she believes that as long as she gives what she thinks Riku wants from her, then she is not going to be alone. But despite this thinking process, Riku is able to snap her back in reality and tell her that she doesn't have to do any of this because she is not going to be alone. Now that she has him, everything is going to be okay. This causes Umimi to finally break down, and while at first everything seems all doom and gloom, there is a happy ending to this, as Riku would come up with the idea of Umimi living with him and his family, something that makes Umimi ultimately happy, and it's a new chapter of her life. And because of this new life that she has, she becomes a much more stronger person, something that gets demonstrated when Umimi's mother tries to hurt Riku for getting involved in their problems. Umimi steps in and confronts her mother after she thinks that she seriously hurt Riku, causing her mother to be afraid of her and run for her life. But just because Umimi's problems seem to have been resolved, it doesn't mean that everything has been fixed, because as if this story couldn't get more insane, Riku will come to find out that Shizuku is no longer part of their school. Shizuku has transferred, and while Riku is desperately trying to find the answers and trying to know where she transferred to, it seems that there's somebody who actually does know where she's at and is going to meet her, and it's none other than Takuto. And it's here that Takuto seems to know what's been happening with Shizuku, and and knows what's been going on with Shizuku all this time. This being that Shizuku has been dealing with a lot of health issues that only a few people know of. The reason why she wanted to talk to Takuto was not only to thank him for helping her out and everything, but also to be honest with him that this entire time she always has had feelings for Riku. And when you think that Takuto would be mad or be devastated by this news, the story does an 180 and reveals that Takuto knew all this time that Shizuku had a thing for Riku. In fact, this was something that he always knew was bound to happen, but the only reason why he did not say anything was because he did not want Shizuku and Riku to leave him, as he didn't want the bond that all three of them had to be ruined because of this. Shizuku apologizes, but all this does is make Takuto angry, to the point that anything she says, he becomes much more angrier but also more sadder. But he reaches his breaking point when she tells him that she knows who he actually is in love with, causing Takuto to run away. And for those who are wondering who that person is, in the recent chapter it does indicate that all this time maybe Takuto saw something more with Riku than just a friend. And me saying this, you can pretty much tell what this is trying to imply, but as of right now, that's where things stand. And overall, if there's one word to describe this manga, that word would be messy, because there's just a bunch of many different things going on, but it does highlight just how complicated feelings are. And when you're not in love with the person you are with, and you're in fact in love with someone else, things only get more difficult and not easy, especially if everybody involved aren't complete strangers and in fact you have history and there's a connection with everybody involved. This just becomes even more hard to deal with, but at the same time it becomes clear that things are never going to be the same and relationships are going to drastically change because of this. So I think it's important to always be honest with your feelings, because not only will it make your life easier, but the other person's life easier as well. But the biggest message that I got from this manga as a whole is that cheating is wrong. Cheating is never the answer, and the most obvious one is don't cheat, because anybody who cheats is not a great person. And if you think you're going to get away with cheating, you are mistaken, because almost every single time it just doesn't end well. And with that, that's the end of the video. I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you next time.